Hey there everyone, and welcome to another Near Monsters video. In this video we're going to be looking at the top 10 PvP Legendaries. This is the proper start to my top 10 series right now, where we're actually looking at good monsters, not the bad monsters. So you can see around me there are a few monsters which may or may not be in this video. So if you didn't know already, I write the tier list on the forum, so this is literally going to be grabbing the 10 from the S Plus in the forum for this video. That's basically what this series is going to be, is me kind of having a look at why I've placed these monsters high, and, you know, just otherwise taking a look at these most powerful monsters in the game. So, yeah, with that, I do want to say that there are monsters in, like, the other categories, like S and S minus here, which you could say are the best, you know, other people may call them the best. This is just my personal take on it, and it does depend on the situation, on the team, and even with that, trying to place the top 10, they could be in a different order. It's hard to say because they each do different things, and you know what matters for the team which you're building or the current meta or that kind of thing can vary. So yeah, this is just taking a look at basically some of the best monsters, and I'm going to be talking about why they're so good. So that's the top 3 tiers. Like I said, we're just looking at the S plus category. So in this, there are 14 monsters, so 10 of them are going to be my top 10. I'm doing 3 honourable mentions of them, and one of them I'm not going to talk about at all, which let's see if you can guess that now. So yeah, with that said, let's move into number 10. At number 10, we have Moku. So Moku is pretty much in here for being an endgame monster. That is its greatest strength, and the easiest way to use it is you just slam it in the 16th slot, and when it comes in, chances are you have fewer monsters than your opponent, because that's generally how it's going to be when it's at the end of your team. You have like pretty much a maximum of 4 monsters at the time, so if they have any more than 4 monsters, Moku's set up, it then has the massive defense buff, and this is very, very hard to kill. It has like among the highest HP that any legendary could have. When it's got double defense, it's nearish the defense cap, and it has no killer weaknesses and stuff, so it's very hard to kill. But that said, it's very slow, and so the difficulty is trying to get to its first turn. But yeah, so when it does get a turn, then it uses a secret skill, and it piercing kills all enemies. This is very hard to stop in some scenarios. It doesn't always work, but when it does, it can very easily swing a game. The opponent basically has to be in control somewhat for it not to go off, because if it's kind of like a back and forth, then they end up having to like throw everything at Moku to stop it from going off, and that can give you a chance to come back. Or they just don't have the ability to kill it, in which case they'll just die from it. So it's a great endgame monster. It can do some other stuff and has use in other teams, but ultimately it's on here because it's a very powerful endgame monster that you can slam in any team, and it does a brilliant job of it. At number 9, we have a very similar kind of monster, Death Gazer. This is another endgame monster. It's passive that brings it most of its power. It's fast forward entrance, where it pulls all your team forwards by 50 seconds when it enters the battlefield. And that doesn't trigger for the first 250 seconds of the battle, so you've got to kind of use it near the end of the team. It doesn't have to be right at the end of the team, but it is good if it's right at the end of the team. This is actually excellent to use with Moku, putting it just behind Moku, so you have Moku in 15th, Death Gazer in 16th, and then it's like, as soon as the Moku hits the battlefield, they have less time to deal with Moku, because if they kill anything else other than Moku, Death Gazer comes in, Moku gets a turn, and then it can do its secret skill, because you have no monsters remaining, because this was the last monster. If they don't kill Moku, because they're like, if I kill that, if they don't kill anything, so there is still reinforcements, there's the Death Gazer there, then when Moku gets a turn, it can use lose 1, I think it's called, kill a teammate, Death Gazer comes in, it instantly gets a turn again, because it gets pulled forwards by 50 seconds, and then it can do its secret skill. It's a very nasty combo, and kind of funny how 2 of the very powerful endgame monsters actually work very well together. So yeah, Death Gazer is brilliant for that, just helping you have a chance to bring the battle back into your favour by having those your monsters pulled forwards. If you've got any entrance control into it, like I just described with the lose 1, it can work with a number of other things, then it makes it even stronger, because you get to kind of choose when it happens, and you can catch the opponent unexpected, because when they see this next in line, they try and deal with it by like killing multiple monsters in a row, because Death Gazer doesn't accelerate the things which come in behind it. It only does it on the things that were already on the battlefield or ahead of it in the team. Anyway, it also is quite a good sweeper. They've buffed that side of it massively. So the Poison Mask is actually very powerful. It's got Bloodthirst, which if you can ever get that going, that's good. Poison Touch can be handy. And what's really nice is that when it enters, it does it on itself. So it gets a turn in about 20 to 25 seconds, depending on how much you've potted it. I think it goes up to about 21 seconds, I think is the fastest, which is faster than a 99% speed monster. So then it can get a turn really quickly, and it can either kill off some dead weight with the Swift Backbite, or it can Poison Storm to poison all enemies. So this supports poison endgames beautifully. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff with this monster. It's definitely a powerful endgame monster for PvP. At number 8, we have Garden Fairy Sunflower. Now this is getting a bit of a notorious name for it. This is a new edition, and it may be changed or nerfed after I make this video, which will be a shame, but right now it's very, very strong. So what makes this really strong is it's one of these monsters that you have to kill it first, really. If you don't kill it first, you start getting punished hard. And the reason is, it's got unwanted aura, so as any teammates get killed, then it puts bronze shells into the enemy team. Also, if it gets ignored, then it can dual Confidence Strike, it can Vigor Slayer Break, which, if you kill something else, that obviously kind of charges Vigor Slayer Break, because an enemy will then have a kill, which you can then kill it off with this 100-second piercing move. So yeah, you kind of have to kill it first, except it's not easy to kill first, because it has decent defense and hardened carapace, so it's going to be double defense. It's the Moku problem of having massive defense and no killer weaknesses. So this is really awkward to deal with, and it's actually more of a frontline monster than an endgame monster, as we've seen before, because it's kind of like a high priority kill target, which if you use it with other monsters that are high priority kill targets, then the opponent gets into real trouble. So yeah, that's kind of what this does. It's got some, decent enough damage stuff. It punishes them with bronze shells, so at the beginning of a battle, if they do ignore it, then it kind of snowballs into you will be able to take control and win later on. You don't want to use it so much later in the team, because if you do, the bronze shells will be bunched together in the next part of their team, but if they have a way to just kill this instantly, then it didn't get its value. And if they have a lot of control and they're just killing their way through your team, they could even kind of ignore this and just kill other things and be like, well, they're never going to get to the point in my team where the bronze shells are. So this is more of like at the front of the team, but there it can be a nightmare for the opponent to deal with, and definitely very powerful having the killing moves. At number 7 we have Tricranium. Now this is one of the top sweepers. This is not what I would say is the best stun immune top sweeper, but it's definitely up there. So this is high speed with good defense, and it shields itself regularly, so it's very hard to deal with. And then what it does is it will basically alternate between reload and Hellfire Mortar Double. That's the sweeping aspect of it. So every 100 seconds it can shield itself and do enough damage to one-shot most things to 2 enemies. So to do that, it does need to sacrifice basically rocks at the back of your team. So you do kind of need some rocks, but it's easy enough, as a lot of people have found. This is a very popular monster. You can just shove like a couple of monsters at the back of your team that are like low cost things that you'll just sacrifice to this. And then if you've got anything else in the team that summons rocks, that will support Tricranium very well, so that it can focus on just doing that attacking. And in fact, because it's killing 2 monsters for each one it sacrifices, it can be the case in some situations you just want to sacrifice actually good monsters at the back of your team in order to just keep the aggression going. So yeah, very aggressive monster and hard to kill off. If you have any space, any time to do the dual summon instead, basically you can do that. So you can keep creating more rocks in any space you have. You don't have to go aggressive with it, which is very nice compared to some sweepers in the game that are like, all they do is damage. And, that's fine, except that in some instances you're like, I don't particularly want to kill something at this point. I want to kind of delay things and like, sure, maybe I can skip and then kill it later and that thing, but like Tricranium gets a lot of benefit if you're going to pass a bit of time, because it has stuff to do in that time. And a nice little aspect of this as well is the secret skill. The secret skill, healing and purifying your team, is very useful in some scenarios. And like I was just saying, where sweepers, when all they do is damage moves, having a way to purify, heal and shield your team as like a, when that comes up, it's so good. So yeah, Tricranium, very awesome monster, definitely very powerful in PvP. At number 6 we have Albacan. Now this is one I would say is better than Tricranium. It's another stun immune sweeper, similar-ish kind of speed, it gets a shield on entrance, and obviously has stun immunity, and what makes this really, really good is that it has a reliable way to kill, and kills very frequently. So it's not like stupidly fast attacking, but it's killing things every like 100, 130 seconds, which is decent enough, and in a number of cases it's 2 monsters. It counters stealth, which is obviously an issue for double hitting moves. But yeah, so it wants to get to the Blood Fury, and it has a couple of moves to do that. But then what's crazy is that this secret skill does so much damage. So yeah, it can set that up itself with a dual poison touch, but where you really want to use Albacan, you don't want to just slam it into a team. I mean, it works well enough, but where this will really be good is use alongside like 1 or 2 other poison monsters. You just need 1 enemy poisoned, yeah, maybe 2, and then you do the secret skill, and that gives you a very reliable way of just like killing monsters from Albacan's first turn and then charging Blood Fury. And so it's a sweeper that does the job and takes very minimal support and then just sweeps really nicely. There's not much more to say. It's just a good all-round sweeper that, yeah, gets the job done. At number 5 we have Vixierid. Vixierid, this is, I would say it's S plus worthy outside of Link Storm teams, but where this really excels in Link Storm teams, in those it is the best monster in your team. So what makes this really strong is the sleep revenge. So if they choose to kill it before it gets a turn, one of their monsters gets put to sleep. If they don't kill it before its turn, well then with the secret skill you put something to sleep, and when they ultimately kill it, hopefully another monster gets put to sleep. So this can result in like a 4v2, even after it's done its moves and, good stuff while it's on the battlefield. So they basically have to kill it first and have one of their monsters put to sleep, and then it turns it into a 4v3. There are counters to sleep, obviously, but sleep is very powerful for taking control of a match, and other sleep monsters generally don't have this strong a moveset. So yeah, because it's high defense and camouflage, it's very difficult to kill. The Blood Give turn is a very nice fast give turn. Transient Bash one-shots anything you want, which is a crazy kind of fail case for a support monster. So the 2 main moves are the Transient Bash and the give turn, and they do the job most of the time. But the heal and the shield moves, normally on the monsters, when I see these, I am critical of them, because when the rest of the moveset isn't good, then these moves aren't that useful, because you can't rely on them. They'd only come up sometimes. However, when you have such a good moveset anyway, having a heal and a shield move is amazing, because it means you use them in their ideal scenarios, like, when it's stronger than killing an enemy or giving turn to a teammate. That's the time when you put a heal or a shield on, well, that's going to be a good time. So they come up a lot. Vixierid just gives you exactly the support you want for a team. It has the sleep stuff that makes it, pushes it over the top into being very, very strong. It does a lot. If you don't have Vixierid, I highly recommend getting it. You will be amazed at how strong support it gives your team. At number 4 we have Nova Drake. Now some people were probably wondering, why isn't this number 1? Well, I don't think it's necessarily the best. It doesn't always line up, but this is very, very good for control. So it's got high speed with stun wave. That's the main thing really. It comes in, it will stun wave the enemies, and if they're not weak to stun at the time, it doesn't matter too much because it does some other good stuff. But if they are weak to stun, they're basically going to lose as Nova Drake comes in. So a lot of people use this at the end of like a stun lock. So they open the enemy team up to stun, then they stun them with a couple of things that sacrifice themselves so that Nova Drake comes in, does the stun wave, and then all the enemies are stunned by a huge amount. So then Nova Drake time strikes something, it gets the second kill, maybe with time strike or with raw bloodthirst, and then it's just your win condition because it's a stupidly fast sweeper that just kills the new things as they enter. That's kind of what goes on with Nova Drake, and it's hard to deal with because it's got hold ground, so you kind of need to hit it twice before it gets a turn, which it gets a turn in like 50 seconds, so that's tough. Yeah, the only way you can really beat Nova Drake is having stun protection at the time it comes in. Otherwise, you're going to really struggle to deal with it. It gets countered by poison, but you can deal with that with a Purify or something. This is very easy to build around and make it a win condition because of the very fast sweeping. There's not too much more to say about it really, other than Raw Bloodthirst is like more powerful than it needs to be. Time Strike 2 is like a stronger Time Strike. Assisted Dusk is weaker than a normal Assisted Dusk, but like, yeah, basically it does really high damage with its moves. And the Raw Bloodthirst can also mean that it can work when you've like Protector locked your opponent. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff with Nova Drake. It's definitely among the best sweepers in the game. At number 3, we have something that's not quite a sweeper, but can be, Malwing. So Malwing has Tranquilizing Entrance. Now, a little side note to Sober King's very, very strong. I don't have it in S Plus in the tier list. I may put it there later. I'm not entirely sure. But there's some aspects about Malwing that I just think are a lot stronger. Sober King is a little awkward with the moveset. Malwing has a lot more to offer than I think people really give it credit for. So Tranquilizing Entrance is very, very powerful, stunning all enemies and putting an enemy to sleep. Even if they have stun protection, it usually works well because of the Dreamy Entrance. Like, it's just one of those passives that it's a bit overpowered for helping you take control of the battle. And then it takes a little while to get a turn, but when it does, it then does blowback, so it can get a second entrance, which is fine. The main thing there is actually the knockback. Knockback moves normally have like a really high second cost, and blowback essentially has nothing because it brings in your next monster. It's good for chaining you into other stuff, like chaining you into a stun knock. Let's say they did have stun protection, this came in, it put something to sleep, you're like, okay, fine, you know, it's done something, and then you knock back their stun protection with blowback into more stun you have in your team, you then stun knock them. So it does the whole knockback thing for setting up stuff, on top of also giving you control when it enters, and then it has the moveset, which is actually a lot better than people give it credit for. So Dream Hunt, I would say in most scenarios you wouldn't really use Dream Hunt, but Reckless Time Strike is a very fast move. It does come up where you can damage things with that, either one shot or decent damage, but like if something's on whole ground, Malwing is actually a really good sweeper, because you do a 70-second move to charge Bloodcrave, and then you've got Bloodcrave. Like, that just does the job in a lot of scenarios. So it can be a sweeper, it can set you up for stuff, it gives you a lot of control when it enters. There's a lot Malwing does that's just so powerful that it came out a few years ago and it was like deemed as basically broken, and it's still among the best monsters in the game now. At number 2, we have Padronorka. So Padronorka is another one which I think a lot of people would have thought is number 1. I put it number 2, and the reason being is I think there's another monster which is just that little bit better. So Padronorka, this is clearly a top tier sweeper. This is just like Tricranium Albacan, but tweaked a little bit more to be better in PvP. Albacan you would have seen was like S tier in general. This is B tier in general. It's not very good in PvE, but in PvP it does enough damage with the moves that it's really, really good. So Camouflage makes it awkward to kill. Stun Immunity makes it just easy to slam in a team and works well in PvP. And Raw Slayerbane gives it that really reliable move that even if you don't have a Chrono or Toxic target, Raw Slayerbane is going to find targets. And with Padronorka's max attack, it kills enemies really easily. So it can very easily kill enemies with Raw Slayerbane. All the moves of Raw, which does mean it can be shut down, but also means that it can deal with when there are protectors very nicely. So the Swift True Hit also comes up there a lot if they have a protector. One of the only issues with Padronorka is it's not very good at like getting momentum killing through the enemy team, compared to like Nova Drake, where you get the ball rolling and then it just raw bloodthirst through the enemy team. Padronorka doesn't do that so much, but you got to remember it's like one component of a few. So Padronorka can come in and kind of kill a few things, start to get the ball rolling, and then you finish it up with a Nova Drake or just have other sweepers alongside that you can kill through enough. Maybe you leave certain targets, like certain Chrono targets, for Padronorka to hit, and you kill the other things with the other monsters. So it can work well there. I do think though that's where it's limited. Bloodcrave is great and everything, but it kills itself off, and it's got very low defense, so it's very easy to kill. So it doesn't do that quite as well as other monsters. Anyway, that's enough on Padronorka. It's a top tier sweeper. There's no doubt about that. It's very easy to use in teams and get a lot of kills with it. So a few honourable mentions before we go to number 1. First is Lulactia. This is a newer edition, and for that reason I'm a little iffy about putting it into the top 10, just because I don't know its power perfectly. But it's definitely a very strong monster. Its main power also comes from rock locking people, which we may see nerfed or counters put in and that kind of stuff. So I was iffy about putting it in. But yeah, very tanky, stun immune, and good speed. I am so surprised at that speed for having such a powerful move as enemy substitute. Anyway, yeah, so cool monster, can really disrupt the enemy team, and it has some combo potential and stuff in it too. Honourable mention number 2 is Ryzen. Ryzen is definitely a very, very strong monster. It somewhat gets stuck in some scenarios because it only has double hitting attacks, but the stun potential from it is just crazy. Stun Retribution is a brilliant move. You can use that multiple times in a lot of battles. Ryzen is not easy to kill because it has good defense and hold ground, and then Stun Blitz, can be very, very powerful. So it does a lot of good. Definitely a great times up monster to have in teams. It's the best times up legendary in the game, right now at least. And yeah, strong monster, just didn't quite make the top 10. The next one is Blue Maluga. Now Blue Maluga, it's one of the best stun protection monsters in the game, and owning Blue Maluga will help out your account massively, because stun protection is a fairly important part. I think it gets exaggerated a bit how much stun protection you need in your team, but having key monsters like Blue Maluga means that you can kind of play monsters that aren't stun immune more easily, because Blue Maluga will so often be that brick wall for your opponent that's trying to stun you, because of its good defense. It shields itself, it's got camouflage, it's awkward for them to deal with. Something like Ryzen, which we just looked at, can't deal with it at all, and just all its stun gets shoved into Blue Maluga. So yeah, Blue Maluga's great stun protection that also can knock back stuff, and has like a piercing double hitting move with Tsunami Mortar, so it can kind of work as a sweeper. There was the whole meta that went around Blue Maluga where like people spam protectors, and this was just a nightmare to kill, and then became that sweeping win condition as well as stun protection for them. Blue Maluga's very, very powerful, but didn't quite make the top 10 because I think it's one of those monsters that maybe will drop down over time, and as other like strong stun protection monsters come in, it may not be quite as strong as some of the other options. So now we move to the number 1, and number 1 is Angel Lion. So it's kind of a meme at this point that Angel Lion is a mythic. Angel Lion's so powerful. It's been nerfed like since it first came out. When it first came out, I'll tell you a quick story. I saw it and my eyes just exploded. My brother was out at work that day, and I was like, I'm gonna wait until he comes back, and we're gonna hatch together. As he stepped in the door, I was like, looked at him, and I was at Angel Lion, and he was like, oh my god. And we quickly rushed up to his bedroom, and we both hatched together. We both got it, and it was one of the best Near Monsters days I've ever had. Yeah, Angel Lion, very, very powerful. So this protects you from like all the kind of awkward status things. It's powerful stun protection. It does die off really easily to Chrono Killer, and I think a lot of people will kind of feel like it's almost underpowered sometimes when they'll use it and they just find it dies. And that is true, but it dies because it's so powerful that people have to target and kill it. Like, people almost always target it first because they know it's so strong. And yeah, if you kill anything else, Retribution, that then can one-shot anything. And then it's got Raw Blood Fury. If there's any stun in their team, this will punish it really hard with Raw Blood Fury. And Soul Exchange is not like something that I would say is like the most powerful aspect of it. But I know a lot of people like Soul Exchange. It has a certain amount of combo potential. If you like target something with single stun revenge, Angel Lion will instantly get a turn. You can do it to kind of stun lock people, looping certain things and stuff. It's definitely got power to it, and it charges Raw Blood Fury and everything. So there's a lot going on with this monster, and as we just talked about Blue Maluga, there's a reason why I put Blue Maluga right before this, and that is because if you own Angel Lion on your account, it makes it a lot easier to build teams with good stun protection. Especially say you own both Angel Lion and Blue Maluga. Putting them in a team together is so strong, because you've then got this double layer of protection where they need to remove both Angel Lion and Blue Maluga. And while Angel Lion's on the battlefield, Blue Maluga actually won't be stunned, so there's no kind of counter synergy there. yeah, Angel Land's one of those monsters. If you own it, you'll know use it in lots of teams. It's going to do the job of stun protection. It works as a sweeper. It counters stun, poison, and sleep. And there's even sometimes you can, kill a deadweight with it or something, do some kind of combo stuff with Soul Exchange. There's a lot Angel Land does that's just very, very strong. That I think that is better to pay credit to than something like Padronorca, which is just like a good sweeper. And we've had enough good sweepers in the top 10 list, so I think Angel Land deserves number 1. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Next up will be top 10 PvP mythics. But yeah, as you can see on this list, on this final page, I decided to kind of troll you with a lot of images of monsters that see a lot of views, but I wouldn't necessarily put in the top 10. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a video soon.